66 million years ago, Earth was alive with giants. Dinosaurs ruled the land, the skies, and the seas for over 160 million years. It seemed like a world that would last forever. But on one ordinary day, an object from deep space changed everything. In a matter of hours, fire fell from the sky, darkness covered the planet, and the age of dinosaurs came to an end. This is the story of the last day of the dinosaurs. Now, let us see how it all started. Far beyond the blue of Earth's sky, beyond the reach of clouds and wind, something ancient is already in motion. It has drifted through the solar system for billions of years, a remnant from the violent birth of the planets. A fragment left over from a time when worlds were still forming, colliding, reshaping one another. Rock and metal fused together in the vacuum of space, hardened in darkness. It is roughly 10 to 12 kilometers wide, and it is moving at nearly 20 kilometers per second. There is no sound in the void, no friction, no resistance, only momentum. With every passing second, it closes the distance to Earth by dozens of kilometers. Its path is not random now. Gravity has taken hold. The planet's pull is final. Below, Earth rotates peacefully. Oceans shimmer, forests breathe. Dinosaurs move through their morning routines unaware that at this very moment, their world has been marked. The object crosses the orbit of the Moon in minutes. As it approaches Earth, gravity accelerates it further. Its speed increases. The atmosphere ahead awaits like an invisible barrier. Within moments of contact, the air itself will compress violently, superheating in front of the descending rock. It is aimed toward a shallow sea that covers what will one day be called the Yucatan Peninsula. The place where it will strike is known to us as the Chicxulub crater. But that name belongs to the future. For now, there is only the final approach. The asteroid enters the upper atmosphere. Air in front of it ignites instantly. The sky begins to glow brighter than the sun. A fireball streaks downward, visible from thousands of kilometers away. There is still no warning, no time to react. In less than a minute, it will hit. And when it does, nothing on Earth will ever be the same. It strikes. In less than a second, the asteroid slams into the shallow sea at the edge of the continent. The force of the collision releases more energy than billions of nuclear weapons detonating at once. The impact is instantaneous and incomprehensible. The asteroid does not simply hit the surface, it penetrates it. Ocean water flashes into steam. The upper crust of the Earth liquefies. Rock behaves like fluid under the extreme pressure, surging outward in a violent wave of molten debris. At the point of contact, temperatures soar to levels hotter than the surface of the sun. For a fraction of a moment, there is a blinding flash, brighter than anything the planet has seen in hundreds of millions of years. Then, the Earth erupts. A cavity nearly 30 kilometers deep opens in the crust, carved out in seconds. Surrounding rock rebounds violently, collapsing inward and outward at the same time. A transient crater forms, then widens, stabilizing into what will eventually measure roughly 180 kilometers across. This is the birth of the structure we now call the Chicxulub crater. But in this moment, it is a wound in the planet. A shockwave tears through the atmosphere faster than sound. Winds exceeding thousands of kilometers per hour radiate outward from the impact site. Forests flatten instantly. Anything nearby is vaporized before it can react. The ground does not merely tremble, it heaves. Seismic waves equivalent to the most powerful earthquakes in history surge through the crust, racing across continents. Within minutes, the entire planet is shaking. Molten rock and pulverized debris are blasted high above the atmosphere, launched on ballistic trajectories that will soon carry destruction far beyond the impact zone. The ocean surges backward from the blast, displaced in an instant. Then, gravity takes over, and the water begins to return. In less than 10 seconds, the age of dinosaurs has entered its final chapter. The explosion is over. The consequences have only begun. Within seconds of the impact, the ocean begins to rise. The force of the collision has displaced trillions of tons of water. What was once a shallow sea becomes a towering wall, climbing hundreds of meters into the air before collapsing outward in every direction. A mega tsunami radiates across the Gulf and beyond, moving at the speed of a jetliner. As it races away from the impact site, the coastline is erased. Entire marine ecosystems vanish beneath churning water and pulverized debris. Coral reefs are torn apart. Seafloor sediments are ripped upward and hurled inland. Nothing in its path remains intact. At the same time, the planet convulses. Seismic waves generated by the collision surge through Earth's crust, equivalent to earthquakes far beyond magnitude 10. They travel outward in concentric rings, circling the globe in minutes. Thousands of kilometers away from the impact site, the ground begins to shake violently. Forests far inland tremble, then collapse as the earth beneath them fractures. Hillsides give way. Rivers surge backward as shock waves pass through them. Landslides cascade into valleys, burying everything below. In what is now North America, a shallow inland sea begins to slosh violently from the incoming seismic energy. Water that had been calm moments earlier forms standing waves. Sediment churns upward from the bottom. Evidence of this moment will one day be found at the Tanis fossil site, preserved in extraordinary detail within the Hell Creek Formation. There, fish are discovered packed tightly together, their gills clogged with tiny glass beads, spherules of molten rock ejected from the impact and raining down through the atmosphere. They were alive when the debris fell. Buried in a sudden surge of water and sediment, they died within minutes of the collision, thousands of kilometers from the crater. The first hour is chaos on a planetary scale. Shock waves continue to reverberate through the crust. Tsunamis crash into distant shores. The air itself carries a deep, rolling pressure pulse as the atmosphere struggles to absorb the force. And high above, the material blasted into space has begun its return. The Earth is still shaking, but the worst is yet to fall from the sky. High above the planet, the debris reaches the edge of space. Trillions of tons of shattered rock, vaporized crust, and molten droplets have been blasted beyond the atmosphere. For a brief moment, they arc silently along ballistic paths around the globe. Then, gravity pulls them back. They re-enter all at once. As the fragments plunge through the atmosphere at hypersonic speeds, the sky begins to glow. Each piece of ejecta superheats the air in front of it, turning the upper atmosphere into a furnace. The effect is global. From horizon to horizon, the heavens ignite. The heat does not come from flame touching the ground, it radiates downward from the sky itself. Within minutes, air temperatures surge dramatically. Across entire continents, dry vegetation begins to smolder. Leaves curl, resin boils within tree bark. Then, forests erupt. Wildfires ignite almost simultaneously across vast distances. Flames spread uncontrollably, driven by searing winds generated by the impact's pressure waves. What begins as scattered ignition points becomes a planetary firestorm. The oxygen-rich atmosphere feeds the flames. Across floodplains, coastal forests, and inland woodlands, animals attempt to flee. Herds scatter in confusion. Smaller creatures dive into burrows or beneath roots, but the heat is overwhelming. Many collapse where they stand, overcome not by flame, but by sudden thermal shock. In open terrain, a lone dinosaur pauses. It lifts its head toward the sky, toward a horizon glowing red. The air grows hotter with each passing second. Above, streaks of fire multiply, falling faster now, brighter, relentless. The world that had been green at sunrise is turning black. Soot and ash rise in towering columns as entire ecosystems burn. Smoke climbs high into the stratosphere, joining dust and vapor already injected there by the impact. Within hours, much of the planet is aflame. And as the fires rage below, a new and longer darkness begins to form above. The fires begin to consume their last fuel. As forests burn across continents, vast columns of smoke rise into the upper atmosphere. At the same time, the impact itself has blasted enormous quantities of pulverized rock and sulfur-rich material high above the planet. The debris does not simply fall back to Earth. Much of it remains suspended. Within hours, the sky starts to change. The sunlight weakens. What was once bright and open becomes dim and copper-colored, then gray, then darker still. Soot from global wildfires mixes with fine dust and sulfur aerosols injected into the stratosphere. These particles spread rapidly around the Earth, carried by high-altitude winds. They form a thick, reflective veil encircling the planet. Days pass. The sun disappears behind a permanent haze. Surface temperatures begin to fall. Without sunlight, photosynthesis slows dramatically. Plants that survived the initial fires struggle in the dim light. Leaves blackened by heat now face another enemy, cold. As weeks turn into months, growth stops entirely. Many species begin to die off. This is the beginning of what scientists call an impact winter. Unlike a seasonal winter, this cooling is sudden and severe. Models suggest global temperatures may drop by more than 10 degrees Celsius in a short span of time. In some regions, freezing conditions arrive in climates that had once been tropical. The oceans respond as well. Surface waters cool rapidly. The delicate balance of marine ecosystems begins to unravel. Plankton, the foundation of oceanic food chains, decline as sunlight fails to penetrate the darkened skies. On land, herbivores that survived the fires now face starvation. The plants they depend on are gone or dying. Predators, in turn, lose their prey. Food chains begin to collapse from the bottom upward. The world grows quieter. Ash settles over landscapes already scarred by flame. Rivers carry blackened sediment. The air remains thick and cold. For millions of years, dinosaurs had thrived in a stable greenhouse world. Now, in a matter of months, that stability is gone. The darkness holds. And for the largest animals on Earth, time is running out. The cold tightens its grip. Weeks have turned into months beneath a sunless sky. The great herds that once moved across floodplains now wander through a landscape stripped of food. Ferns and hardy plants briefly surge in the aftermath of devastation, but they are not enough to sustain giants that require hundreds of kilograms of vegetation each day. The largest herbivores begin to weaken first. Ribs press against thinning skin. Movements slow. Migration offers no relief. The crisis is global. There is no untouched refuge, no distant valley where food still grows in abundance. Predators follow. Tyrannosaurus, once the undisputed apex hunter, now spends more energy searching than it gains from feeding. Prey is scarce, scattered, starving. Even the most powerful carnivores cannot overcome a collapsing food web. Strength fades. Territories shrink. Eventually, they too succumb. Forests stand silent. Where there had once been layered canopies filled with movement and sound, there are now stretches of deadwood and ash. Carcasses lie where animals fell, some scavenged, many untouched. The scale of loss is staggering. In the oceans, a parallel disaster unfolds. The atmosphere, loaded with sulfur compounds from the impact, produces acid rain that washes into the seas. Surface waters become more acidic. Plankton populations crash further. Reef systems collapse. Marine reptiles and countless invertebrates disappear alongside their terrestrial counterparts. By the end of this event, approximately 75% of all species on Earth will be gone. The non-avian dinosaurs, rulers of the land for over 160 million years, are among them. But life is not erased entirely. Some lineages endure. A small branch of dinosaurs survives, the avian dinosaurs, the ancestors of modern birds. Their small bodies, flexible diets, and ability to shelter offer advantages in a broken world. Underground, small mammals persist. Many are nocturnal, burrowing, capable of eating seeds, insects, or carrion. Their size allows them to require far less food. In protected spaces beneath the surface, they ride out the worst of the cold and darkness. Reptiles, amphibians, insects, and deep-sea organisms also cling to survival in scattered pockets. The age of giants ends not in a single instant, but in prolonged decline. As ecosystems unravel from the bottom up, dominance gives way to vulnerability. Power yields to adaptability. And in the quiet aftermath of catastrophe, the balance of life on Earth is permanently rewritten. The darkness does not last forever. Months pass, then years. Gradually, the thick veil of dust and soot begins to thin. Particles settle out of the atmosphere. Sunlight, faint at first, starts to reach the surface again. The cold eases. The long impact winter begins to loosen its grip. In the silence left behind, small movements return. Beneath the ground, in burrows carved into riverbanks and forest soil, small mammals have endured. They are no larger than rats, warm-blooded, covered in fur, able to feed on seeds, roots, insects, and whatever organic matter they can find. Their size is their advantage. They require little. They reproduce quickly. They adapt. When they emerge into the altered world, it is empty of giants. Plants are among the first to rebound. In the fossil record, scientists find evidence of what is known as a fern spike, a sudden global abundance of fern spores layered directly above the boundary marking the impact. Ferns are hardy pioneers. They thrive in disturbed ground, spreading quickly across ash-covered landscapes. This signal appears in rock formations around the world, including sites like the Hell Creek Formation. It marks the beginning of ecological recovery. Life begins again from the bottom up. In the skies, survivors take flight. A small group of dinosaurs has made it through, the avian dinosaurs. Unlike their massive relatives, these feathered creatures can fly, nest in sheltered locations, and feed on a wide variety of food sources. Over time, they diversify and spread into newly opened ecological niches. Today, we know them simply as birds. Every sparrow, eagle, and gull carries a lineage that stretches back through the catastrophe, a living connection to the age of dinosaurs. The world that emerges is not the same as before. It is quieter, emptier, reshaped. But it is alive. And in that survival, a new chapter of Earth's history begins. The extinction event does more than end an era. It reshapes the trajectory of life on Earth. With the non-avian dinosaurs gone, ecosystems stand open, vast ecological roles left unfilled. For millions of years, mammals had lived in the shadows, small, nocturnal, cautious. Now, the world is different. The giants are gone, and opportunity has arrived. Over the next few million years, mammals begin to diversify rapidly. Some grow larger, adapting to herbivorous lifestyles once dominated by dinosaurs. Others evolve into swift predators. Forest canopies fill again, this time with new kinds of life. On open plains, unfamiliar shapes begin to roam. Evolution accelerates into the vacant spaces. Continents continue their slow drift, reshaping oceans and climates. Mountain ranges rise, sea levels change. The planet heals, transforms, and stabilizes into a new configuration. From small, tree-dwelling mammals, primates eventually emerge. Creatures with forward-facing eyes and grasping hands, adapted to life in complex environments. Over tens of millions of years, one lineage develops larger brains, social structures, language, and technology. Eventually, humans. The asteroid that ended the age of dinosaurs did not simply destroy a world, it cleared the path for another. Without that single day of devastation, mammals may never have risen to dominance. Primates may never have flourished. Human beings may never have existed. The end of one age became the beginning of another.
And the story of that transformation began with a single impact 66 million years ago. 66 million years ago, a single object fell from the sky and changed the course of life on Earth. In less than a day, the age of dinosaurs, a reign that had lasted more than 160 million years, came to an end. Not through gradual decline, not through slow transformation, but through sudden, overwhelming catastrophe. An impact, a chain reaction, a planet pushed to the brink. Nearly 3/4 of all species vanished. Ecosystems collapsed. The dominant creatures of land, sea, and air were erased from their positions at the top of the food chain. And yet, life endured. In burrows beneath the soil, in seeds waiting for light, in small feathered survivors that still fly above us today. From devastation came opportunity. From extinction came evolution. From the ashes of one world, another slowly emerged. Every forest, every bird in the sky, every human story traces back to that single day. One asteroid changed life forever, and in doing so, it shaped the world we now call home.